I am the creature, the forsaken creation of Victor Frankenstein, known to the world as Frankenstein's monster. My tale is a tragic and horrifying one, filled with moments of despair and sorrow, but also with a longing for acceptance and understanding. My existence began in the darkness of Victor's laboratory, where I was brought to life through the terrifying and unnatural act of galvanism. As I opened my eyes for the first time, I was met with a mixture of emotions, confusion, fear, and an overwhelming sense of abandonment. I was left to fend for myself, a wretched being, devoid of any guidance or love. My first encounter with humans was a cruel one, as I was met with disgust and hatred at the mere sight of me. My hideous appearance, a patchwork of stolen body parts, made me an outcast from the very beginning. I longed for connection, for a kind word or a loving touch, but all I received were screams and violent reactions. My creator, Victor Frankenstein, had abandoned me, fleeing from the horror he had wrought. I was left to wander the wilderness, alone and desolate, with no purpose and no understanding of the world around me. It was in this isolation that I began to learn about the world and its inhabitants, observing their customs and behaviors from a distance. One day, I stumbled upon a small cottage inhabited by the DeLacy family. From my hiding place, I watched them interact with one another, their warmth and affection for each other, their kindness and love. I yearned to be a part of their world, to experience the love and connection that they shared. I longed for companionship, for someone to look past my grotesque exterior and see the longing for acceptance that burned within me. I devised a plan to introduce myself to the DeLacys, hoping that they would see past my appearance and accept me for who I was. I approached the blind patriarch of the family, hoping that his inability to judge me based on my looks would be an advantage. I introduced myself to him and sought to gain his trust through conversation and helpful deeds. Over time, I shared my story and my yearning for companionship, hoping that he would introduce me to his family. For a brief moment, I experienced the joy of being accepted as the blind man, DeLacy, offered me kindness and friendship. He listened to my tale, sympathized with my loneliness, and even offered to help me learn more about the world and its ways. It was a glimmer of hope in an otherwise bleak existence. However, this flicker of acceptance was extinguished when the rest of the DeLacy family discovered me. They were horrified by my appearance and, in their fear, rejected me, driving me away with violence and hatred. Once again, I was cast out, a monster condemned to loneliness and despair. The rejection by the DeLacys only deepened my sense of isolation and bitterness. I was consumed by anger and a desire for vengeance against my creator, Victor Frankenstein, who had brought me into this world and then abandoned me. I vowed to find him and make him understand the pain and suffering he had caused me. My journey led me to a series of tragic encounters where I was repeatedly met with fear and hatred. I witnessed the cruelty of humanity as I roamed the countryside, and my heart grew heavy with sorrow. I was both an object of terror and a tragic figure, caught in a never-ending cycle of rejection and isolation. As I continued my pursuit of Victor, I crossed paths with a young boy named William, who happened to be Victor's younger brother. In a moment of terrible fate, I encountered the boy in the woods, and in a fit of anger and despair, I killed him. This act haunted me deeply, as I realized the enormity of my actions and the irreparable damage I had caused. Upon discovering the lifeless body of William, Victor was consumed by grief and sought to bring justice to his brother's killer. Little did he know that I was the murderer he was pursuing. Our paths would cross once again, and the confrontation between creator and creation would be one of heartbreak and tragedy. When I finally confronted Victor, I demanded that he create a companion for me, someone who would share my loneliness and understand my suffering. I believed that with a companion, I could find solace and acceptance. Victor reluctantly agreed to my request, but as he began his work on the female creature, he was overcome by fear and doubts. He destroyed the unfinished companion, fearing the consequences of creating another like me. This betrayal pushed me over the edge, and I vowed to make Victor's life a living hell. I killed those close to him, causing him immeasurable pain and suffering. My actions were fueled by my desire for revenge and the agony of my existence. Victor and I engaged in a relentless pursuit, a deadly game of cat and mouse that spanned across continents. It was a battle of wills and a testament to the depths of our hatred for one another. The world around us was a backdrop for our tragic struggle as we both descended into madness. The pursuit came to a tragic climax in the Arctic wasteland, where Victor and I finally confronted one another. Victor, worn down by his quest for vengeance and his guilt over the creation of a monster, succumbed to the harsh conditions and died. As I stood over his lifeless body, I was overcome by a profound sense of emptiness and loss. My vengeance had brought me no satisfaction, only a profound sense of sorrow and despair. With my creator's death, I was left utterly alone, with no purpose and no direction. I had exacted my revenge, but it had brought me no solace. I realized the futility of my actions, the hollowness of my existence, and the tragic consequences of my unnatural birth. I was a creature condemned to a life of isolation and suffering, with no hope of redemption or acceptance. As I gazed upon the frozen landscape, I contemplated the tragic course of my life. I was a creation of science and hubris, a being born out of a desire to defy the natural order. My existence was a reflection of the darkness that lay within the human heart, the capacity for cruelty and destruction. I longed for acceptance and love, but I had been denied those basic human desires because of my appearance. My tale is a cautionary one, a warning against the unchecked pursuit of scientific knowledge and the consequences of playing God. It is a story of the tragic consequences of alienation and the destructive power of revenge. I am a creature born of sorrow and despair, a monster who longed for the simple joys of human connection, but was forever denied them. My existence is a testament to the complexity of the human condition, the interplay of good and evil, and the enduring power of loneliness and rejection. And so, as I stand in the desolate Arctic, surrounded by the icy wilderness, I am filled with a profound sense of sadness and regret. I am the tragic figure, the wretched creation of a misguided scientist, condemned to a life of eternal solitude and suffering. My tale is a cautionary one, a haunting reminder of the consequences of playing with the forces of life and death, and the enduring power of the human spirit to endure, even in the face of unimaginable tragedy.